How does it feel to see the ones coming after you walking with God? To know that's a legacy that God has allowed you to see. Like, how does it feel to you?
It feels great to be able to see my son and my grandson following Jesus Christ as they are. But it always hasn't been that way. There was sessions in our earlier life when my son wasn't exactly walking the way he should have. But I'm thankful that both Lil and I have worked hard at being an example without trying to create difficulty by saying things that shouldn't be said. And so I don't know if I have been that great an influence, but I know that it worked.
It's pretty exciting. That's awesome. Thank you. So this is for any of you guys if you wanna answer this. If someone asked you what it was like to have a father in your life who worked hard to be that example of a godly man and a father, and they didn't know your dad, how would you describe them? Again, not that they're perfect, but what would you say to that person?
I'd probably tell them I was spoiled, honestly, right? Because I'm on the other side of that. I never grew up with somebody who didn't believe in Christ. Yeah, it's just, it's lots of little things, like never heard Dad yell. He never really got mad, but you knew when he was ticked off because the belt was coming off. But that's not a bad thing either, right? Because it taught me discipline, and it's an extremely fortunate thing that I have, because I had that kind of leadership from Dad, who he didn't started a legacy, right? And it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Sorry, I was just, the camera turned off for some reason. I've got another one going there, so it doesn't really matter. So Cole, if you want to talk to that, you can, or I can just keep going.
Oh, sure. What come off the top of my head for that question, like one thing that I would like for a lot of people that don't have the same morals and stuff like a Christian man would have, a lot of people would like the way you get ahead in life. My dad always taught us, like, you work hard for what you get and don't take advantage of people. And he's been generous the whole, I don't know, since I've been alive, obviously, and probably before then, since he's been alive. But just the morals in which that you live life by, kind of like, and how you work. You never, just like even down to little things, like never bill for more hours than you work, and if you screw up or something, well, that you kind of make it so you're working on your own time. Things like, just little things like that. Sometimes it's been frustrating to look at that, and you see other people getting ahead with companies and stuff. Like, just now that I'm an adult, I can see that it's harder to get ahead that way, but I know that's the right way to do it because that's how my dad taught me, and it's biblical. And I'm grateful for that, and I think that's something that that's something that's missing right now. Even with Christian men, I know lots of good godly men who still don't live by those morals, but that's something that for sure my dad lives by and that I've learned, so.
That's cool. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You can hold it together, or?
Yeah. So far.
So this is for any of you. I mean, Sil, you had a dad too, and I know your dad probably, I don't know your story, but I know your dad probably left you a legacy of godliness too.
My dad was not a Christian, was not a believer.
Well, even cooler than just to say.
But my dad lived a life that was, I guess you could almost call it faithful, though he wasn't a believer. He never took advantage of anyone.
High moral standards.
Very, very high.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My mom was the same. So I have that legacy
Yeah,
behind me.
that's cool
You know,
to build on, right?
yeah.
That's awesome. So for you guys, if you look at your life and you think, okay, what if I didn't have what I had? How do you think your life is different? Because your own father followed God in front of you. Now this is you two. How does that make you want to live your life? Again, not that they're perfect, but just to say, hey, this is what.
Yeah, I think one thing that I can think of just in the world of like pleasure and like addictions and stuff, I would say that like I have a pretty addictive personality, and just knowing that my dad, not to say he was addicted to stuff or whatever, but I know that he's changed his, I don't know how to put it into words, but he's like any problems that he was living in sin or whatever, if he had something going on like that, he corrected it so that he wouldn't live in sin in that way. And I think if I didn't have somebody to look up to like that, if I'm in the same position, like sometimes it's hard to say no, and it's hard to kind of pull yourself out of the water and stuff when you're going through that kind of thing. So when I'm like, I don't know how to articulate it so well, but like if I'm having a problem with an addiction or something, whatever it is, I can pull myself out of it, and I kind of see that my dad has done it before me and so forth, and I think that makes it easier to know that like it's possible. I come from a line of men that can do that. So, and I think if I didn't have a dad who didn't pull himself out of stuff, then well, I might not be here for starters, but I would probably be the same thing, if you know what I mean. Like I would still be stuck in foolishness.
It's brought up with a lifestyle, right? It's not just, it's not religion. You know, for a long time I didn't realize that, right? But it's, it goes back to what I said before. It's not about being told what was right. It's about being shown what was right. It's about leading by example rather than leading with words. I mean, everybody fails at that, right? And if you say you don't, you're a liar, right? But it is. That's the way that it is, and I don't know. You know, like you take Dad. It was always even more than that. His business life, right? It was always set a moral standard for everybody else to follow. And that's where I'm at. And if I wouldn't have had that, I wouldn't be the moral person I am. There's no way, because I wandered and did whatever I wanted for a long time, right? And if I wouldn't have had that guidance as a kid, I'd have never had anything to come back to, right? I mean, God, who knows? God still might have found me, right? But not necessarily, right? I had an operator's manual, right? That was put in front of me, right? And it was a visual one, you know, it wasn't in words, and that's probably the best kind of operator's manual that you can have, right?
It's an amazing gift to have that in that.
Yeah.
It's caught rather than taught.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So then focusing this in directly on your spiritual things, how did your father's walk with God affect your walk with God? And again, good and bad sides to this, right? And this probably for you guys, and I guess for you too, Sil. Any of you guys want to answer this?
I remember, and I'll never, shake it out of my memory. Dad's taught Sunday school for longer than I've been alive, right? And every Saturday night, he sat in his chair with his Bible, and he went over his lesson planning for the next Sunday morning, right? And I don't know, that's always stuck with me. And I still struggle to do that. I don't do that. I listen to podcasts and that kind of stuff on the radio because I'm in the truck all the time, right? But I don't know, that stands out at how much of a godly man that Dad is. Not was, is, always has been, you know. And yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. You know, not having a Sunday school background, growing up in a church, I learned the books of the Bible by teaching juniors.
Nice.
I had to teach them all of the Bible stories that so many of us that grew up with it took for advantage, you know, David and Goliath and all of that stuff. I taught that to juniors, and that's where I got my, I don't know.
That's great. I love it. How have you guys spiritually led and lived an example? Like practically speaking, you've touched on it a little bit, Sil. What did you learn along the way, the hard way or not, about leading spiritually in your family?
If I wanted my son to grow up and not use God's name in vain, then I was very careful that I didn't. I don't think my boys ever heard me cuss. And that actually came from a experience I had when I first came to know the Lord. The morning after I had given my life to Christ, I went out to do chores and the cow put her foot right in the pail. Well, I told her why and how come. But you know, I had an experience that morning that I will never forget. It was as though God took me and put me on my knees in the barn, and he took that away from me, and it never came back.
That's cool. That's really cool. And that, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that.
I forgot about, what was the question?
The question is, how did you, or how have you spiritually led and lived an example? Learning the hard way or not? Like, what have you learned along the way?
I've learned that it took me too long to get my crap together to teach my boys before they got to the point where they didn't care anymore or as much, right? I failed in that because I caught up with everything I still struggle with, caught up too much with work and all the rest of it, right? But so I never really got my poop in a group till the last probably 10 years, right? Like, honestly. I mean, not that I wasn't a Christian, I just wasn't pursuing it. And it's an ongoing battle because it's so easy to stray away from it, right? If you're not in it. And like this whole COVID thing, it's, I don't know. Everybody has gotten so used to not having church anymore. You know what I mean? I miss a lot because of work, but still church is going on, but it wasn't. I mean, you guys did a good job of bringing it to us, but still just different, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, I don't know. This last week, I decided I need to get back to it, so I started listening to Bill Creasy and some podcasts and stuff, and just try to get myself back where I know I need to be, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's a way to lead, right? I gotta take care of my own stuff first.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess then one of the last few questions here. What would you like to leave spiritually? If you were to say, hey, this is the impact I want to have on my family. Now, every one of you can speak to this if you want. What spiritual legacy or impact would you like to leave in your family when you're done, when you're gone? What is it you want to see in your family spiritually?
We've both Lil and I have committed to pray continually for our family. And we wish for them to follow very closely. But even having said that, I will continue to pray for them, that they will follow Christ in a way that would make a difference in the lives of the people around them.
Absolutely.
I guess it's just continuing the legacy that I was taught. Not judgmental either, right? Just whatever happens, happens, you know. I don't know.
Agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my grandpa, like, I think grandpa's already started that legacy. Like, obviously I think he's going to leave a legacy just because he's been a godly man. He's been like a really good example for us, and my dad will follow that. So, well, I think so anyways. He's been doing pretty good lately, so. But I think for me, I want to be just part of that too. Like, because when I'm older and my kids will know my dad, like I've known my grandpa and stuff, and I think eventually we'll just keep getting older, and somebody just has to keep kind of passing the torch down. Like, somebody just has to be kind of the head of the family. My grandpa has been like the head of the family, like he's the spiritual leader for the whole family. We all kind of look up to him. And my dad is that way too, and eventually he will be more as he gets older and stuff. And like, I think that just the I don't know, the head of the family, like everybody's gonna look up to him and for wisdom and that kind of stuff. So I think eventually I'd like to just have the same legacy as them before me.
Hi guys. Why don't you come say hi real quick?
What do you got, my boy?
That's radio.
Ooh, your trailer.
I guess 2 questions. Sil, you already kind of answered this one, so I'm not going to ask you, but for Lauren or Colton, if you were to pray for these guys or your kids, the family right now, what would you pray? What would you pray for?
I would pray for unity in the family. I would pray for salvation for the next generation, as well as the continual growth in his generation, my boys and their wives and kids behind me. And I guess that's probably about it. I mean, there's so many things that you can ask for, but the spirituality of the ability to be able to someday be with me and Dad in heaven, that'd be awesome.
I think, well, I already do pray, and one of the things I do pray for is just wisdom for like my kids, because I know like the world just it's just a weird place every day, and like right now it's a weird place, but I think by the time my kids are my age, it's just going to be like even that much weirder. So I think it's just going to take more and more wisdom, like as the generations keep coming up. You're just kind of going to have to teach your kids how to outsmart the media and all that stuff. So I pray for wisdom for my kids and my niece and my brother's kids that they're going to have and stuff, because that's just what it's going to take. And I pray for, and I will pray, I would like to pray for wisdom for my siblings and me, and even the generations above me, because like we all have to just be smart through all of it, because it's just a world of stupidity.
Teaching logical and critical thinking, but like in a biblical sense too, like absolutely.
Yeah, you can't believe everything you see or hear, right? And like the further, I think the older the world gets, I think the easier it is for people just to accept smaller sins and for just to let things go. And like we just keep changing, and we're just getting a little bit more progressive. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think just to get smarter and pray that like people just remember that the Bible has a set of rules kind of thing, and like just follow the Bible and quit going with the flow. So
Absolutely. That's awesome.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, last question. You guys have talked for almost 20 minutes about your fathers, about a legacy, about spiritual world and being a man. Is there anything you'd like to say since your dads are right here, right now? Anything you want to say to them?
Yes, I know I'm a doughhead.
Yeah. I just feel, I'm just really glad that, I just feel really blessed that we grew up the way we did. I'm just glad that you broke a cycle kind of thing and you taught your kids something that taught us. And I know I look up to both you guys, and I know that I think you guys are probably the two best men that I know. I look up to you both, and I hope to be like you guys someday. I know it sounds really cheesy and Hallmark, but it's true.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Set your standards a little higher.
I'll try.
For me, it's just, I don't know. The friendship that I've always had with Dad, dependability, accountability, love. Never said it much, but you just knew that it was. And yeah, that's pretty special, right? And just to add one more thing to this, and I know it's fathers, all that, but my mom's mom, Grandma Delaire, I think as far as the spirituality and the leadership in that, a lot of it came from her, just because of the legacy that she had. I think even you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
We see a lot of men in a family, their mother-in-law, they never want to see their mother-in-law. Well, I had a great mother-in-law.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you for sharing, for giving everybody the chance to hear kind of what it's like to have been given the gift of generations of families following God. Not to say that all of it is perfect, but it's amazing for me to hear. So thank you guys, and I know it'll be wonderful, just as an example, as an encouragement, as a challenge for all the families out there. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.